Hey, what is up, and welcome into this new edition of Around the Bags. It's May 24th, and it's Labor Day weekend, and I'm Mitch Glessner alongside Thomas Lemanske. As always, we haven't gotten an edition out there, and that has been due to finals and being busy with school and whatnot, but it's good to be back, and new shows will come out every week, just like they had been before finals and all that busy schoolwork stuff started, which is no fun, but you have to deal with it.
Yeah, you do have to deal with it. But hey, finals are over. It's summertime, baby. Let's do this.
Alrighty, so let's get into our MLB news as always. And our first topic of discussion for this edition is the Houston Astros and just how they've been so successful. And we've talked a little bit in the past, Thomas, about how they've been successful, but they continually just keep winning. And it's pretty amazing to see a team that has struggled so much in the past. They're at the top of the AL West right now with a 29-16 record, and they have the best road record in all of baseball at 14-6.
Yeah, you know, they've been playing really well. They're 7-3 in the last 10. They're on a 2-game winning streak. They have a plus 27 run differential, but they just had a 4-game series with the Detroit Tigers, and they split it. They went 2-2 that series, so they're win some against Detroit. But, you know, they've been playing really well. They don't have a guy that's batting over 300. Their best batter is Jose Altuve right now, but they're just doing it by starting pitching. You know, with Dallas Keuchel, and he's 6-0 right now, and has a 1.67 ERA. So he's an AL Cy Young leading candidate. So I don't know. What are you thinking?
Yeah, Dallas Keuchel has been absolutely phenomenal, but this team has been extremely interesting to me, and the way that they're winning is just so unique.
Right.
And that right now, they're 29th in all of baseball in batting average. They're second in the most strikeouts, but yet they're first in the category of home runs and third in stolen bases. So they're doing it with their power and their speed, and as you mentioned, their starting rotation has been phenomenal, but it's been extremely interesting. No, like you said, Thomas, nobody batting above 300. Their team average is not that great, but you know, the bright spot is Jose Altuve. You know, he has 14 stolen bases. He's hitting 294, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he reaches upwards of, you know, batting 300 when it's all said and done. But this team has just been extremely interesting, especially being a small market team.
Yeah. And
they have so many prospects that, you know, could come up here in the next, you know, 1 or 2 years that would even help them out even more.
Right. Chris Carter, Jason Castro, George Springer has been their top prospect. But yeah, I mean, you said it. Timely hitting has really been their strong suit this year. You know, they're getting that guy on, and the home run ball. You know, the home run ball does a lot. One swing equals one run. So, and more if another guy's on base. But the home run has really been getting the wins for him. But I think that's
their bread and butter.
Right. I think that starting pitching though has really helped them.
Yeah, and another very interesting thing that I find about this team defensively is that the Astros have shifted more than any other team in baseball in the last 2 years. 1,341 times last year. That's most in MLB history, and you know, the shift is becoming more popular, but that's very interesting to see how much, you know, the shift being such a new thing in baseball, how much that has helped them defensively.
Right. And the Astros have a 6.5 game lead over the Los Angeles Angels right now, which is pretty surprising because Los Angeles Angels have a lot of firepower. But, you know, the Houston Astros are young and, you know, they're new to this league and everybody's taking them for granted and they're making people pay. So, you know, I hope they continue their success because they're exciting to watch.
Yep, and hopefully they get some more national attention, you know, maybe some more nationally televised games. That would be a good thing for baseball. Let's move on to our next topic, and this has been a big topic here around baseball, and that the Marlins have fired their former manager, Mike Redmond. He was 16-22 when he was fired by owner Jeffrey Loria, and Jeffrey Loria hires Dan Jennings, their former GM, to become their manager.
Yeah, and the only time he's coached is in high school back in 1985. So, I mean, this guy doesn't really have that much coaching experience, but this is an interesting move. I mean, the Marlins are 18-27. They're 8.5 games back, so it's still early in the season. They still got time, but you don't see GMs that often going to become the head coach, but they're usually just there to supply the players for the head coach, to coach and stuff. But the Marlins need some help. They've been playing pretty bad. I mean, the only bright spots they've been having this year is D. Gordon and of course Giancarlo Stanton. But Giancarlo Stanton's only batting 232. Yeah, 232 this year. He has 12 home runs, but yeah, I mean, they need some help. He just got his first win last night in extra innings, but I mean, hopefully this move is going to spark some with this team.
Yeah, and to me, the Marlins have just been a team that has been trying to figure out a way to rebuild and get back. They were a very good team, back around 10 years ago, back when they had the Miguel Cabreras and, got a lot of young guys that could really play. But, right now they're really struggling to find any success. They're, like you said, Thomas, pretty much their only bright spot right now is D. Gordon, who's leading the league in average, which is really astounding at 379. D. Gordon played for the Dodgers, and to me, when he played for them, I never would have thought that he would be leading the league in batting average, and he's also doing it, stealing 17 bags already. But, it's been weird to see. Giancarlo Stanton, he was my pick to be the National League MVP, and yes, he does have 12 home runs and 40 RBIs, but he's only hitting 232.
Right.
And I think at this point, the move of putting Dan Jennings there as their new manager, to me, the Marlins are just saying, let's just try whatever to win, and they're just pretty much simply just that. They're just going to try anything, any way to win ball games.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is like the Royals move last year when we hired George Brett as the hitting coach. The Royals were really struggling hitting the ball like midway and through the season. And when we hired George Brett, it really lit a spark under us, and we started hitting the ball. And we went to the World Series last year. So, that's what sometimes teams do. They need changes, and, it wasn't working with their manager, and they made the move. It's going to be interesting to see how, a GM coaches the players that he hired and he pays. But, it's going to be interesting to see. I want to see how it works. And, the Marlins are 18-27. They're 8.5 games back. The good thing is, though, the Nationals, they are one of the top teams in the NL, but the three other teams, the Phillies, Braves, and Mets in that league or in that division, haven't been playing too well. I mean, they're only 8.5 games back, so it's early, and they have a lot of time to improve, so we'll see.
Yeah, so at this point, just do whatever and try anything new to get any wins, and hopefully the Marlins find success soon to come. But once again, I was just extremely baffled that Dan Jennings becomes their manager, a guy with no major league experience, he never played in the big leagues.
Not even college.
No coaching experience pretty much whatsoever. So that's very interesting, and we'll see how it works out. We're going to move on now to our next topic, and it's Bryce Harper and Nelson Cruz and how this could potentially turn into a home run race, Thomas. This could be a legit race ever since the post-steroid era, so to speak, even though Cruz was suspended for 50 games in 2013 for PED use. But this could really turn into a fun race to watch, and we haven't really seen a race ever since McGuire and Sosa did it in 1998, back when McGuire hit 70, Sosa hit 66. I think this is going to be a very fun race to watch, and how many homers these guys really can hit.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head right there. Bryce Harper, I mean, he was a prodigy coming up. I know I've said that before in past episodes, but this guy was the top prospect coming out of the minors. So, he has a lot to live up for. Nelson Cruz, I mean, this guy led the league in home runs last year with 40, and he has 17 right now. Harper has 16 right now, so he's one behind Nelson. But, I mean, this is really exciting. It doesn't get better than a home run race. Roger Maris has the so-called record of 61, and Cruz is on pace for 67 right now, and Harper's on pace for 62. So, I mean, this is going to get really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of touched on it there with Maris. And to me, that really is the home run record.
Yeah, I agree.
I look at what McGuire did in Sosa, and of course Barry Bonds with the all-time record at 73. But to me, those were during the steroid era, and those guys, to me, they had a high likely chance of using performance-enhancing drugs. And it's very fun to watch. Bryce Harper right now, this is a kid you can tell he's just worked extremely hard. Hopefully nothing comes out in the future about PED use. But, he only hit 13 home runs last year, and he started out slow this year, and I was, kind of questioning, has he really matured yet, and is his talent ever going to catch up? And it sure has. I mean, he started off slow, but right now he is just absolutely demolishing the baseball with a 333 average and 16 bombs. But, yeah, I really hope this turns into a fun race. The big discussion in baseball in, recent years has been that pitching has basically dominated, and there hasn't been a lot of home runs. And, home runs make the game more popular. They make the game more fun. Baseball was very popular when Sosa and McGuire were battling it out. And hopefully this gets, baseball more talked about and more popular this year.
Yeah, I mean, when people hit home runs, people go to a game to be entertained, and I think one of the best ways to be entertained is when people are hitting it over the fence. I know Alex Gordon had a really, really long home run yesterday against the Cardinals, and that really got me excited. I was at the game yesterday, but, the home run race is a really good thing for the MLB. When talking about McGuire and Sosa, MLB was really popular when those two, were at their prime, hitting all those home runs. Granted, they were with steroids, but it was fun to watch. It really was. But I think it might be even cooler to watch with these guys knowing they don't take steroids. Granted, Nelson Cruz did take steroids last year, I believe, but hopefully he's not taking steroids at all. But I believe Nelson Cruz is going to take it home. I don't know what you believe, but, he had 40 home runs last year, and he's, top of the list this year. So I think he's on track to get the, be at the top of the list again this year. Yeah,
I'm actually going to go with Bryce Harper, honestly. I really think he's really figured it out at the plate. His approach and everything has really changed. He used to strike out a lot when he first came up in the bigs and whatnot, but his strikeout numbers, are going down a little bit. He's maybe seeing the ball a little bit better, and the ball just absolutely explodes off the bat. Very fun to watch. I think Harper's going to edge it out. I'm going to say he's going to end up with probably around 45. He's on pace for 62, but I really doubt that would happen. But I'll put him at around 45, and maybe that'll be good enough for an MVP award as well. So let's move on now, and we're going to play a little bit of a game in Contender or Pretender. We're going to go through each division here, starting with the American League East, Thomas. And the Tampa Bay Rays right now are leading the American League East, and that's been kind of a disappointing, division. That division has been the best division in baseball for as long as I can remember. But right now, the Tampa Bay Rays just lead at 24-21. I'm going to say they are a pretender at this point.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you. They have a one-game lead over the Yankees, but the Yankees have been playing terrible. They are on a 5-game losing streak and 1 and 9 in their last 10. But, yeah, they just don't have the hitting. Evan Longoria is really – they're only one of the few bright spots they have. And also Danny Archer, who's a top young pitcher in this league. But, besides those two, they don't really have, top prospects and top players to, beat out Boston, Orioles and the Yankees. I think the Red Sox and the Orioles are going to be at the top of that division come, into the season.
Yeah, I would probably definitely agree with that. The Yankees have gone on a slide. They're not playing well at all. They're 1 and 9 in their last 10, and they've really declined. Honestly, for me, pretty much everybody in the American League East, to me at this point, is a pretender, honestly.
Yeah.
And there's just not a lot of great starting pitching in that division. There's a lot of, very talented guys and guys that are getting paid a lot, but they're just not producing to what, their salary says they should be. But we'll see what happens. We'll move on now to the AL Central, and our Kansas City Royals, who have been playing phenomenally all year. I'm definitely saying they're a contender right now at 28-15 with a run differential of plus 65. That is very good. That's incredible. Right now they're playing extremely well at home, 17-7 at home. Kansas City Royals, definitely a contender for me, and their offense has been fantastic. The bullpen's been fantastic. The one question mark has been the starting pitching, but right now they're definitely a contender for me.
Yeah, of course I got to agree with you. They just had that 4-game series against the Cardinals this past weekend, and they split. Oh no, they won the series. It was 3-game series. They won the series 2-1. So I mean the Cardinals are the best team in the NL right now. So I mean that has to say a lot towards the Royals. But yeah, I mean they're 17-7 at home, which is a really good home record, and 11-8 on the road. But I mean our hitting has just been off the charts. We have the best batting average in the MLB. Our timely hitting, hitting and runners and with runners in scoring position has just been the top of the MLB. We're first in that category, but if we want to continue this success, we've talked about this before, our starting pitching has to improve. Chris Young has coming on lately. He's 3-0, 4-0. He had a really good outing against Cardinals 2 days ago, but I'm definitely going to say that Kansas City Royals are a contender.
Yep, and they've been extremely fun to watch. Dayton Moore made some big moves getting Volquez and Kendrys Morales and Alex Rios, and it'll be fun to watch when Alex Rios gets healthy again, but Kendrys Morales has just been absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's hitting the ball extremely well. He has 37 RBIs. That was leading the league up until Bryce Harper just passed him, though. But, I mean, to have a guy on the Royals, in the top 5 in RBIs, that's something I haven't heard of. And,
right.
As long as I've been a big Royals fan, so he's been a big contributor. Also, Alex Gordon does it day in, day out defensively, and he's, obviously a great hitter. He's been an all-star and whatnot. Our bullpen, just absolutely phenomenal.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm definitely going to say we are contenders right now as one of the best teams in baseball. Let's move to the AL West. And we already talked a little bit about the Astros. We're going to go Astros and Angels here. I'm going to say that the Astros are definitely contenders. They've proven a lot to me, Thomas. Dallas Keuchel is a proven ace right now. He's got tremendous stuff. He's 6-0. Like you said, he'll probably be a Cy Young candidate for sure. But as for the Angels, I'm going to go pretenders right now, even though, they've got Mike Trout and everything, one of the best players in baseball, obviously. And, we played them last year. The Royals played them last year, in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to say that they are pretenders right now. I just don't see a lot in their starting pitching. Jared Weaver has slowly declined, and Pujols is having a pretty good year for him, as well as Trout, obviously, but I just don't think they're going to have enough moving forward to make it to the playoffs, honestly.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with you right there. I agree with you that the Astros are contenders. I mean, all around, they're just a really good ball club, especially that starting pitching, but the Angels, I think they are contenders. I think they're going to contend with the Astros going forward. They're 6.5 games back right now, but like I said, it's a long season. So, but that you said that starting pitching has been one of the weakness for them. But they got some names. They got C.J. Wilson as well. They got a really good a young guy. His name's Garrett Richards. He's been pitching pretty well. I know we faced him last year, and I think he almost no-hit us, the Royals. But that starting pitching has a lot of room to improve. I think they're capable of winning a lot more games than they have, and they're hitting right now. Mike Trout has been, is maybe arguably one of the best players in baseball, and they do have Pujols was, used to be one of the best players in baseball. Arguably might be still is, but yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the Angels contenders and the Astros contenders.
All right, so 2 contenders there for Thomas. Moving into the National League East, and the Washington Nationals and the New York Mets. And, if we would have played this game, a couple weeks back, mm-hmm. I honestly probably would have said that the Nationals were pretenders because, their starting pitching, which is very star-studded, just hasn't been doing well. But here comes Bryce Harper out of nowhere, ignites the spark, and they've just been playing out of their minds ever since. They're 26-18 right now. That's good for first in the division, obviously, and the New York Mets there, 24-21. And, the Mets start out very hot, and we talked a lot about them in previous editions, and Matt Harvey's been fantastic for them. He's a great pitcher, very fun pitcher to watch. But right now, their run differential is at -1. They've kind of tapered off a little bit. So I'm going to go Nationals are definitely contenders. and I'm going to go pretenders for the Mets. I just don't think the Mets can sustain, the success they've had moving forward. I honestly think the Braves, are probably a little bit better team, a little bit deeper team in my mind, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Braves jump over the Mets for second place in that division here sooner or later. So definitely contender Nationals, but pretender for the Mets.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. The Nationals, we've talked about the Nationals multiple times in our past episodes, but, a couple weeks ago, they just weren't playing to their full potential, but now, look at them now. They're playing to their full potential, not maybe full potential, but they're playing really good baseball right now. But Bryce Harper, man, he's been lighting it up. He has almost home runs in every other game the past 4 or 5 games. So he's been hitting the long ball really well. Their hitting has been improving. But yeah, the Mets, their hitting was they were hitting the ball pretty well at the start of the season. They started off the season one of the best records in baseball, and like you said, they've tapered off. But Matt Harvey has been their ace, and he just lost his past game. But I just don't think their hitting is just going to sustain. I think their hitting is going to decline. They just don't have that one star besides Matt Harvey. But so I'm going to go with the Nationals as contenders and the Mets as pretenders.
Okay, cool. And we'll move now to the National League Central and the St. Louis Cardinals, who were my pick to win the World Series at the very start of the year, and they're playing out of their minds. They're playing great ball. 28-16 leading that division. The Cubs are in second at 24-19. They're 3.5 games back. The Cubs have been very surprising. I thought the Pirates would definitely basically be second place in that division throughout the whole year, especially because the Cubs are so young, and John Lester hasn't really had much success. But I'm going to go back to the original top 2 teams, as I mentioned, the Pirates there a little bit, but I'm going to go Cardinals, definitely contenders. They're always a team, to look out for in October. They've got a plus 55 run differential. They are 4-6 in their last 10, but, they've got a very good roster all around, great pitching, great bullpen, and great defense. They're just a complete team. And as for the Cubs, I am actually going to go with contender right now. And that might be kind of a stretch because they are so young. But here's why I'll say they're a contender. If they can get, have a shot at getting into the playoffs, John Lester hasn't pitched very well so far for them, but he pitches amazing in the playoffs. So I'm going to go contender for both the Cubs and the Cardinals.
Yeah, I got to agree with you with the Cardinals, of course. Cardinals are always going to be a contender. They're starting pitching. They have the best team ERA in the MLB right now. They got, I believe, the best, or one of the best home records. They're 15-5 on the road right now, or at home, I should say, but and a plus 55 run differential. But yeah, the Cardinals, they're pretty stacked with Yachty, Matt Holliday, Matt Carpenter. So they're definitely contenders. They're going to be contenders for a good amount of time going forward. But Chicago Cubs, I gotta disagree with you, Mitchell. I think they're pretenders, and like you said, they are young, and I think that's why they are pretenders. Late in the season, that youth is going to hurt them. When they don't play in those crucial games to ending the season, in the playoff race, I don't think they're going to pull through. I think that the youth and those young prospects are going to, show, they're not really used to this big stage. But, Chris Bryant, Addison Russell, those guys are really, really good prospects. And, I'm excited to see those guys going forward. But I got to go with a pretender with the Cubs.
All righty. So let's move now to the National League West. And the Dodgers are leading that division right now at 26-17. They have a 19-6 home record. That's very good, obviously. Yeah. And the San Francisco Giants, though, here they come creeping up into second place, and Hunter Pence is back for them. That's huge. And they haven't hit the long ball very well this year, but I think that getting Hunter Pence back healthy, he's going to hit some long ball. He's going to get his fair share of homers for the Giants. And I'm going to go on this one, Dodgers pretenders and Giants contenders. The Giants, they've just turned into a dynasty pretty much, here in the last 6 years pretty much. They're just always there. Buster Posey is, the staple of that team, the guy that everybody looks to. And even though they lose Pablo Sandoval, think once, Hunter Pence is now they're healthy, I think they'll be just fine offensively. And, Buster Posey does it day in, day out, whether it's first or catching. So I think they're going to be definitely contenders, and especially since they have Madison Bumgarner, who pitched,
Right.
Out of his mind in the playoffs, especially against the Royals. But I'm going to go pretender with the Dodgers, and just because so far, Clayton Kershaw, he was my Cy Young pick, and he's pitched decently, but his record would show otherwise, and he hasn't pitched so well in the playoffs. So right now I'm going to go pretenders and the Dodgers, but contenders for sure the Giants.
Yeah, I'm going to go with both the Dodgers and the Giants as contenders. The Dodgers, they've been hitting the long ball just like the Astros. I mean, they've been living and dying off the long ball, but Clayton Kershaw, like you said, he's my pick to win the Cy Young in the NL this year too, but I think he's going to pick it up. He won the Cy Young last year, but I mean, he's Clayton Kershaw. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball, and they also have Zach Greinke, who's arguably, I think he has top 5 ERA in the MLB right now, and I think he has 5 or 6 wins. But so they have 2 aces right there, but they've been hitting on the long ball, so I think they're going to be contenders like they were last year. And same with the Giants. Like you said, the Giants have just been so successful the past 5-6 years. I mean, they've been in the World Series like every other year or something like that. And so, and they're starting, I think Matt Cain's on the DL right now, so they're going to get him back, and their starting pitching is going to get even better. And, of course, they have Madison Bumgarner. So, I think they're going to be contenders. Both those, that's going to be a really interesting race, the NL West this year. It's going to be interesting to see how that turns out.
All righty, so we got all of our contenders and pretenders in. That was a pretty fun game there. That'll do it for our MLB talk, and we're going to take a quick break, and then, as always, we're going to get into our Royals talk once we come back. Alrighty, and we're back from that quick little break, and once again, this is Around the Bags Edition 8. We're getting back into it. I'm Mitch Glessner alongside Thomas Lemanske, as always, and it's time to get into our Royals talk. And the Royals have been playing absolutely astonishingly so far. They've proven a lot of people wrong, which is, so fun to see after seeing them get to the World Series. Thomas, they're 28-15 right now. It's best in the AL Central right now, which, in my opinion, is probably the best division in all of baseball, the most competitive division, I would say. And they're leading above the Twins right now and the Detroit Tigers, who are both tied for second at 3 games back. But right now, no signs of slowing up for the Royals. They're playing amazing right now. So we're going to get into our report card grades so far for the Royals this year. And we're going to start off with our offensive grade, and I definitely have to give the Royals a solid A right now for their offense. It's been extremely exceptional. They have multiple guys hitting above 300. Sal Perez, he takes a lot of, he gets banged up and whatnot behind the plate. He plays almost every day behind the plate, and yet he's still hitting 305. Absolutely amazing from him. He's one of the best catchers in the game right now, along with Yadier Molina. Eric Hosmer breaking out, Mike Moustakas breaking out. These young guys are finally starting to, really contribute. And Alcides Escobar, he gets so much credit for his defense, but yet he's still hitting 281, and he, gets on base a lot, with that 322 on base percentage. Lorenzo Cain, a guy who didn't even pick up a baseball until his sophomore year of high school, is just
crazy.
He's been crazy good, batting .305. So definitely an offensive grade of an A for me.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you. We got the first best team batting average at 289 in the MLB. So I mean that just says everything right there. But one guy that's I've really been impressed and in awe is Mike Moustakas. I mean, that guy has just been incredible this year. Like, he's been using all sides of the field. I think he has most of his hits to the left side of the field this year, so which is crazy considering what he did last year. I mean, every team he played, they were just shifting. There was maybe one guy on the left side of the field.
And even right now, teams are still shifting on him.
Right. And they're learning that they can't do that anymore since he's hitting the ball to the left. But, I mean, yeah, you said 1 through 9, our team is just playing
very
outstanding.
solid. Yeah,
I mean, we got some guys. I think the lowest batting average on our team is Paulo Orlando right now at 266, which it's 254 with Omar right now. But I mean, Omar makes up for it defensively. But and our batting average 1 through 9. I mean, we just with runners in scoring position, we've been hitting the ball like none other. We getting that timely hitting, and that's why we're getting all these runs and have the best run differential in baseball. But so I got to give ourselves an A. Hopefully this hitting continues with a 289 team average. We'll see, but usually hitting doesn't last all season. Players get hot and cold, but we'll see.
Yeah, and it'll be fun, absolutely, to watch Alex Rios return and see how much he can help. And, Christian Colon, even, he had to step in, and he's been great as well with a 283 batting average. So, yeah, solid A, first in average, fewest in strikeouts, only 25th in home runs. We had the early power surge, but that's kind of declined. Mm-hmm. But still, for me, a solid A for our offense. Let's move now to defense. And again, it's got to be a solid A. When you have one of the best defensive catchers behind the plate and Sal Perez, man, that guy is so fun to watch. He's doing it offensively, and he does it day in, day out defensively. He has the snap throw, throws a lot of runners out. Very high baseball IQ on the diamond. He calls a great game with our pitchers. He's just phenomenal. And then you look at like Alex Gordon, who in my opinion, probably the best outfielder in all of baseball. Just absolutely amazing. And Alcides Escobar, great shortstop. Solid every day. Makes the great plays look routine. He's just great. And Mike Moustakas in the hot corner there, he's been playing really well too. So solid A again defensively for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with an A+ instead of an A, but I mean we lead the league in runs saved. We're the most efficient D in baseball. I mean our defense just stacked. We have the best outfield in baseball. Kane, who should have won a Gold Glove last year, hopefully will this year. Of course Gordo, who won the Platinum Glove last year and a Gold Glove, but Alcides Escobar today, he made a play up the middle. He just made it look like just with ease. He got the ball. He almost was at toward the right side of the second base, towards second base, but he got the ball moving towards the right, spun around and threw a dart to Hosmer right on targets. He just makes that look so easy, and it's crazy. He should have won a Gold Glove last year, but hopefully he will this year. So we got 4 or 5 guys who could potentially win another Gold Glove this year, and that's awesome. Definitely an A+ defense. I think a lot of people would have to agree with that. Yeah,
solid defense, solid hitting. So far, A's across the board for both me and Thomas. Let's talk pitching though, and
all right.
This for me is a little bit different, and I am going to go with a C+, honestly, pitching. And some people might think that's a little bit low, but I'm going to give him that C+ just because basically our pitching has only been our bullpen basically carrying the load. Our starting pitching has been, I hate to say it, but it's been pretty bad.
Oh yeah.
Danny Duffy was a guy that, showed some promise last year and thought was going to be a great, guy in the rotation. He has a 5.87 ERA right now. No starting pitcher right now in our lineup has over 4 wins. That's crazy. Volquez has been great, but he's still just 4-3. 2.77 ERA though. He's been the one bright spot in our starting rotation. But yeah, a C+ for me. But definitely because the starting pitching hasn't been there, But the bullpen been absolutely phenomenal. They're so fun to watch day in and day out. Wade Davis, great stuff. Kelvin Herrera, flamethrower. Their bullpen's just phenomenal. But a C+ for me right now.
All right, I'm gonna have to give them with a B-. I'm gonna get a little better grade than that, just because of our bullpen, like you said. You got the three-headed monster, Herrera, Holland, and Davis. So, if it wasn't because of that bullpen, we would be in a lot of trouble. We have a 3.16 ERA, which I think third best in the league. But without that bullpen, we would be in deep trouble. Our starting pitching just hasn't been there this year. Edison Volquez has been one of the few bright spots, along with Chris Young, who is 4-0. One of those wins did come in relief, but he's 3-0 as a starter with a .78 ERA.
Yeah,
which
as a 36-year-old too.
Right, and the 6'10" guy. I mean, he's been lights out. I want to see him get more starts, even with Vargas coming back. So I'm going to go with the B-. Hopefully that starting pitching improves. Like I said in the past episodes, I hope we make a trade before the trade deadline to get a quality pitcher.
Yep.
We are tied for, I think, 25th in 17 quality starts. So that's not
a little alarming.
Yeah, that's not a good stat. So our starting pitching has to do better. I'm going to give ourselves a B- in the pitching category.
All righty, awesome. And let's get into coaching. And right now, I'm going to give Ned Yost, right now, he's managed this team exceptionally well. I'm going to give him, he hasn't been perfect, but I'm going to give him, a solid A-. Getting guys like Paulo Orlando to step up and Christian Colon. Draw Dyson hasn't really been there that much this year. He's only played in 23 games, just 67 plate appearances, and, only a 180 batting average. That's pretty low for Draw Dyson. I'm a big fan of Draw Dyson. I think his talent is much more, a lot better than just a 180 average.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Ned has done a great job of managing this team so far. He doesn't let our starters go too deep. He knows when to pull them pretty well. Mm-hmm. He knows his bullpen exceptionally well. And I think he's just used guys in the right spot. I think the way he writes the lineup every day makes just about as much sense as, any other manager could do it. I thought it was crazy. The first game of the year, Mike Moustakas hitting in the 2-hole, and everybody's like, "What is going on?" And then it ends up working. So Ned has a funny way of sometimes putting stuff that makes you kind of scratch your head,
right?
But it ends up working. So Ned Yost for sure right now for me gets a solid A-.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with a B+ with the coaching. And like you said, he's done a pretty good job. I'll give him that. B+. When he put Mike Moustakas in the 2 spot, I almost pulled my hair out. I was going, "What the heck are you doing, Ned?" But thus far this season, man, that's been the best move he's made. And like you said, he knows when to pull the pitchers, bring guys in that we need. But one thing I'd like to see him do more is bunt the ball more and steal more. We led the league in steals last year by a really...
Right now we're just like middle of the pack.
Right, and we led the steals last year in a really, really big, by a big margin. And I believe that's why bunting and stealing, that's why we got some of the wins that we did. And, small ball, I think it's really, really underrated or overrated, I should say. No, underrated. Yeah. underrated. But... you gotta get the guy over by bunting the ball, or stealing. So we have the speed. We have one of the fastest teams in baseball, So
yeah, I
like to see him steal and bunt the ball more. I think if we do that, we'd be scoring a lot more runs. Granted, we have been scoring a lot of runs, but I think we could score even more runs with our speed and our bunting ability. C.S. Escobar used to. Last year, he was one of the top of the league in bunts, and he hasn't been bunting the ball at all.
Bat very well.
Yeah, he hasn't been bunting the ball at all this year lately. But I like to see him do that, especially with the guys in the top of the order and the speed guys at the bottom in the 9 and 8 holes. But B+ might be a little stickler grade by me because we do have one of the best records in baseball. But Ned Yost been doing a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move on now to our next topic here, and I think this is kind of a fun topic to talk about, and it's why does Alex Gordon not get more credit? To me, it doesn't make any sense. The guy just flat out gives it all every single game. I can't even count up, you know, the amount of times that he has ran into that left field chain linked fence out there in Kaufman and just made an absolutely phenomenal play. You know, plays up against the wall, you know, sliding catches, diving catches, head first. The guy just gives up his body defensively. And then offensively, he's been, you know, very consistent the last, you know, 5-6 years. You know, he started out, you know, when he was really young, he didn't have a lot of plate discipline.
No, it didn't.
And he would chase a lot of bad pitches and whatnot. But, you know, looking at it, 2011, he hit 303. 2012, 294. A little bit of dip in the last 2 years in 14 and 13 at 266 and 265. But, you know, he's a solid hitter as well, you know, and he even steals bags. I mean, he's just a complete player, in my opinion, you know, throws so many guys out from the outfield. It doesn't make any sense to me why this guy is not more talked about, you know, on ESPN or, you know, Fox Sports 1. This guy is a absolute gamer. He reminds me a little bit, you know, the way he plays, just kind of like Pete Rose, just all out every game. I don't understand why he doesn't get more credit.
Yeah, I really don't know either. If I had to give a reason why, I would have to just say KC's in a small market. You know, we don't really, I guess lately we've gotten more primetime TV games. Actually, tomorrow we're on ESPN, so. But, you know, I think being in KC has a big thing to do with it. You know, but he's been the face of, or he is the face of the franchise right now. And, you know, he finished 12th in the MVP voting last year, and the past 4 years he's been a Gold Glove and won the Platinum Glove last year. So I don't know, he's arguably the best outfielder in baseball. He should be talked about more, but man, I don't know why. I mean, he needs to get more recognition for what he does. He's just a guy that loves to play baseball. He doesn't, you know, say a lot of stuff in the media. He's, you know, not arrogant. He's a team player, and I love him.
Yeah, and guys are around the team, and Ned, you know, they always speak high volumes about his work ethic, and his work ethic is just the best on the team. You know, he's out there taking live reps, you know, in batting practice out there in left field. That's why he gets so many, you know, why he makes so many great plays. I just hope that we can keep him, you know, and he has his player option at the end of this year. But it'll be interesting because this guy definitely could play for a big market team. But like you said, Thomas, he's been the face of the franchise pretty much. I really, really, really hope that the Royals can lock him down and keep him a Royal, hopefully a Royal for life. That would be very fun to watch. And, you know, not a lot of great players stay with one team anymore. And that'd be great if he could do that.
Yeah, you know, well, he has a player option in 2016, and it was actually rumored this past offseason that he was going to decline that player option. Who knows if that's true or not? But man, if he leaves us next year, I wouldn't say I'd be pissed, but I'd kind of understand him because he needs to get a raise. I mean, that guy, he's on a 4-year, $37.5 million contract. He signed in 2012, so. You know, he needs a raise. I mean, he deserves it more than anybody on the team, arguably. But, yeah, I mean, you hit it on the dot. We need him. I hope he's a Royal for as long as I can see him play.
Yeah. All right, and we're going to move into our last topic of the day and our last topic for the Royals here. And it's who has a legitimate chance at making the All-Star Game roster. And I think it's funny. In my opinion, it's like, they seriously just put the whole Royals lineup out there, and it's just been that kind of year for them so far, that everybody is playing exceptionally well. They're all playing, I mean, there's just no other way to put it. They're just a fun team to watch. They do it in so many different ways. You know, the power has declined, but hopefully that gets back up there. But right now, it's so hard to not, you know, pick everybody, obviously, but right now I'm going to go Salvi will make the roster.
Yeah.
At the rate Hosmer is going, Hosmer should make the roster. I'm going to say Moustakas, Gordon, Lorenzo Cain. It's just funny. I mean, there's so many of them. Kendrys Morales. I mean, I can't even narrow it down to, like, you know, only a couple guys. And then, of course, probably Wade Davis, probably Kelvin Herrera, maybe
Holland.
Greg Holland, but no starting pitching for sure. Starting pitching, nobody in there probably makes the All-Star game, but there's just a lot of guys, and we'll see what happens. Kansas City, not being as much of a popular team, it'll be interesting to see how the voting goes. But certainly, I can see 6 or 7 guys well deserving of being in that roster.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Salvador's, I think, already a lock. I think, let's see, I don't think Hosmer's going to make it just because there's Miggy and Prince Fielder has been playing really well this season. So him and Prince, it's going to be a close race, but I think Prince is I guess, bigger star than Hosmer is, has more recognition so far this season, and has been, I guess, more All-Star games. So I think Hosmer is going to get left out. Escobar, maybe. Moose, I think he definitely should. He's batting .335 this year. I mean, what more can you ask in the 2-hole? Gordo, I definitely think he will. I think he's already a lock. He's only batting .271, but, his defense makes up for it. Lorenzo Cain, maybe. I hope he gets a little better. He has .305 hitting. I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah, get a little bit better. Do more for us,
I don't
Lorenzo.
know why I was about to say that, but hopefully he does. There's a lot of good center fielders. But Kendrys Morales, I think he's definitely going to go. I can't really think of a DH in the AL that's going to beat him out right now. But so 4 or 5 guys might make the All-Star game just, by position players, and that doesn't even include the bullpen. I think Wade's already a lock. Maybe Herrera, maybe Holland. So there's another possibly 3 guys that might make the All-Star game.
Yeah,
but, it's just amazing. We used to talk about who's, the one player on the Royals who's going to make the All-Star team because, one player has to go to the All-Star game from each team. So, it's just awesome to go through our lineup and just pick, maybe he's going to go to the All-Star game. It's really fun to see. Yeah,
I think I wouldn't be surprised, if the Royals have the most players, honestly, out of any team in the All-Star game for that Midsummer Classic. That'll be fun to watch. But as for today, it's Memorial Day weekend. It's May 24th. I'm Mitch Glessner and Thomas Lemanske. This was Around the Bags Edition 8, and, keep tuning in weekly. As for today, though, that is a wrap. Thank you for tuning in, and tune in next week.